So welcome back to the Happiness series, and to day 5 of part 2. Now, I said yesterday that today I'd talk a little bit more about this relationship between compassion and contentment within ourselves. In many ways, I think it's self-explanatory when we are very focused on our own problems in a judgmental or critical way. It's very difficult to feel any sense of connection with others. It's difficult to feel any sense of connection with ourselves even. So in some ways, the beginning of compassion or of empathy is empathizing or understanding our own feelings. When we're actually present with those feelings, not criticizing them, not wishing them to be different, simply resting in that feeling without any fear, anticipation, or expectation, allowing that feeling to express itself fully. In that moment, we're experiencing a sense of self-compassion, if you like. We're actually meeting that feeling where it is rather than wanting it to be different, wishing it to be different, or trying to rationalize it in some way. So in some ways, that's the sort of starting kind of place. But if you take that a little bit bigger, very difficult to experience a sense of genuine happiness and contentment in ourselves when we see people around us who are struggling in some way. We probably really notice that when they're people who are very kind of close to us. But when we step back a bit further, we see that actually it's bigger than that. It's not just the people that are close to us. Our own sense of happiness and contentment is affected by everybody around us. Now, it's often at this stage in which people say, yeah, but I can only take so much on when I watch the news and I see all these people struggling, or when I see people, I walk past somebody on the street. I can't do something to change all these people's lives, And of course, practically, physically, there is only so much we can do. But in terms of our practice, in imagining this kind of wave of compassion expanding outwards in every direction, alleviating suffering, melting any difficulty, in that there is a lot we can do. And it's very easy to say, well, that doesn't make any difference to those people. It doesn't change lives. But what it does, it changes the experience in our own mind. Not in a sort of a delusionary way where we kind of think that something's happening and it's not. It's not about that. It's about our relationship between self and other. When we sit and we imagine that happening in our mind, in that moment, there's a certain reality that exists. In everyday life, in our environment, of course, we're limited in terms of how much we can actually do. And we need to skillfully apply ourselves using the attributes, the qualities that we might possess as individuals. But in the bigger sense, when we sit down, there's a very direct relationship between our own sense of happiness and contentment and our willingness or ability to cultivate, to rest in that innate sense of empathy or compassion. So something really, I think, central to this theme to reflect upon, maybe before and after your practice each day, but certainly throughout the day, as you start to notice, perhaps leaning a little bit more towards kind of empathizing with some people than with others, and noticing how that affects your own happiness, your own sense of contentment. I'll leave it there for now. If you'd just like to take a moment to get comfortable. And when you're ready, just starting the exercise with some nice big deep breaths. And with the next out breath, just gently closing the eyes now. As you begin to become a little more comfortable, a little bit more aware of your immediate surroundings. And now as you begin to scan down through the body, just building up a picture, both physical sensation and emotional feeling. And as you pause now, just to become a little bit more aware of your motivation today, just checking that motivation, making sure it's in line with the ideas of the exercise, that the motivation's free from too much expectation. Just remembering to include those around you, those people who will benefit from you taking some time out to do this particular exercise. And now just resting the attention on the breath. And just remaining with that feeling just for the next few minutes. And now as you follow the breath in that way, it's almost as though that little dot of light appears of its own volition in the middle of the body. Again, all those qualities we talked about before that you get to experience as well as it expands throughout the body, just melting away any difficulties, and then just watching as it expands outwards in every single direction. Remembering to go above and below as well as out in every direction to the side, and just following that, almost having a sense as though it's just melting away the difficulty from people's lives. If you find it useful, you can actually imagine, visualize people you know, people you don't know. But imagine that expanding far beyond the space around you, moving outwards in every direction, the country, continent, the world, and far, far beyond, until the mind simply can't go any wider. So just starting that exercise in your own time now. And when you feel that visualization really has gone as far as it can possibly go, with the next out breath, just letting go of that image, letting go of any focus on the breath, and just letting the mind do whatever it wants to do. And now just bringing the attention back to the body, just starting to feel the weight of the body again. Contact, the body in the chair, the body in the floor. As you just open the eyes again, just taking a moment to refocus. Aware of how you feel, aware of the benefits of being present, being mindful throughout the day. And just remembering how much easier being aware, being present makes it to be more in touch with that quality of empathy or understanding with others. And when you've done that, just sitting back in the chair. So, as you go through the day today, just starting to notice how, by being more willing to notice difficulty in our own mind, or pain even in our own body, how we can start to move closer to a place of genuine empathy and understanding towards others. In some ways, this is quite a natural, organic process. If you think about it, maybe you've never had a bad back before. And so it's quite hard to understand why people who have bad backs are making such a fuss about it. And then all of a sudden you experience a bad back, and then you get it. You really understand it. Now, of course, we don't need to experience everything in such a direct way in order to have a sense of compassion. It's possible to do that without actually experiencing the situation. But it's that shift in perception, it's that kind of level of shift that we're talking about here, where we actually go from a place of not really kind of getting it to, okay, yeah, I understand how that feels. It's a big shift, and it allows us to communicate with that person in a very different way. We might not actually maybe no need to speak to the individual, but all of a sudden we understand where they're coming from. And that in turn changes the way that we feel and the way we experience the world. It can sometimes sound like sort of quite a heavy sort of thing, the idea of compassion, needing to get in touch with other people's feelings, often when they're experiencing a lot of difficulty. But if it's done in the right way, there's actually a real quality of lightness and spaciousness to compassion, just like the exercise itself, actually. And so again, just notice whether it does become a little bit heavy. And if it does, then there's probably a little bit too much sort of intellectualization going on around it. A bit too much sort of trying to feel compassionate rather than simply providing the conditions for compassion to naturally arise. But I'll leave it there for now, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for day 6 of part 2.